internal hip rotation in a half kneeling position. So this is what our final position is going to look like, where we're going to do all of our work. But to set up for this position, we need to find something that we can have our ankle against so that we do not move. So we have something to block ourselves so that we can push into for our isometric. In my case, I have a weight. You can use a door frame. You can really use anything that is immobile. I'm putting a squishy there because I just don't want to hurt my ankle. I also have something underneath my knee, but that is also optional. We're going to get set up in a half kneeling position. Now we're doing internal hip rotation, which means the inside of my ankle is going to be against something immovable, okay? When we get set up for this, ideally have at least one or two things to hold on to because we're going to be upright for a long time. We're going to rotate our whole body over top of our femur. Now, if we think about our femur being fixed, it is stationary, it is in a fixed position, it is not moving. Our body, our hip joint or acetabulum is going to rotate over top of that femur, okay? So if we think about what our hip looks like here, we have a ball and socket joint. So ball socket, we're gonna rotate within that fixture. So that's the head of the femur, and that is the acetabulum. So with that in mind, we are rotating our whole body over top of our femur, which is fixed. Now, whether you can go really far or not, you can always bring that leg with you to help stabilize yourself. Now, this is a great position because you can really modify where you want to be. Right now, I'm in what kind of would look like a standing position. My hip is right underneath or over top of that joint. But if I wanted to, I could manipulate this by bringing myself into some extension with the hip. I could bring myself into a little bit of abduction with the hip. I could bring myself into some adduction. So wherever your knee is in relation to your hip, we can really kind of search around here. And as long as we are rotated and stable, we can really scan around here and try to find what tissue we want to work today. There's no right or wrong, there's just different lines of tissue that we can train. So once we are here, we've found the tissue that we want to stretch. That stretcher sensation should be about a 2, 3, 4 out of 10. And then we're gonna just hang out here. We're gonna relax into this position. We're gonna try to let ourselves melt into this stretch. Put on a timer for 2 minutes or put on one of your favorite songs that you can just chill out to. We're gonna pretend that 2 minutes has passed. And at this point, we're gonna do our first pancake type of PAIL, which means we're gonna kind of scan around. We're gonna find how to use the tissue that we want to, ideally the deepest tissue possible, to create some effort. That effort is gonna be your ankle driving into the block. Okay, the other way to think about that is our pelvis is now in a fixed position and we are trying to rotate our femur as though we are trying to get out of this position. We're trying to bring our foot back behind us where we maybe originally started. So we're gonna do this by first creating a little bit of tension in our core, in our hip, in our other leg to stabilize ourselves. Then we're gonna start to put a little bit of effort as though we're trying to rotate, maybe 5 or 10% effort. And as you're doing this, we're trying to feel that deep tissue in the hip. You can scan around here if you need to, very gently, very slowly, to find the tissue that you need or want to use, and then we're gonna only use that tissue. If you feel like you're using a bunch of strength from your front leg or your shoulders, try to bring it back to this hip, okay? Once we've found this tissue that we wanna use, we're then going to gently relax out of this, and we're gonna get prepared for our first real PAIL, i.e. nice deep breath, core engaged, a little bit of tension in the lower body, and we're gonna start to build ourselves up from 0% effort, chilling, building up to 10%, 20%, 30%, building yourself up to your greatest and safest effort, where we are driving our foot into that block or rotating the femur, trying to get out of this stretch. We're gonna be here essentially for as long as is necessary for you to feel the fatigue in your hip. Once we are finished our PAIL at whatever percentage for whatever length of time, we're gonna nice and slowly relax into this position, seeing if maybe you can bring yourself a little bit further now. Relax, a couple of nice deep breaths, and then either get out of this position after relaxing for 15, 20 seconds, or going for round 2 with the same type of PAIL.